And yeah, it does look like she's cut her finger. Unfortunately, she hasn't. She's been painting. What we'll do this afternoon, guys, is I'll tell you a little bit about Scar. Amy's going to play around with him. He's the star of the show after all. And yeah, we'll probably tell you a couple of stories. Hopefully Amy might get to feed him. And then, all going well, we'll get out of here before we do get eaten. So, Scar here is 48 years old. He's a male saltwater crocodile.
Oh!
It's a shame Amy didn't fall in, eh? Would have lasted a bit longer. 48 years old. He's 4.8 metres long, and at the moment, probably about 600 to 650 kg in weight.
Oh.
Now 650 kg, that's, what's that, 22 kg short of the weight of a mini. And as you can see, he can move through that water underneath without disturbing the surface. So at 48 years old, saltwater crocs like Scar, he will live usually about 80 or 90 years in the wild. And as a reptile, they turn 50% of what they eat in the body growth, so he will keep growing right through his whole life. So if I was to just give Amy a quick nudge into the water, Scar would kill Amy and eat Amy all up, and she would last him for about 18 months. So he doesn't need a lot of food all the time. Come on, Scar, roll over. But Amy has come across from Australia. And she's been here since January this year. Now in Australia, she didn't do much work with crocodiles over there. She was probably a little bit too scared. She had to come to New Zealand to be taught by a proper crocodile wrangler. But reality is that when you're working with these guys, we have to work on the Australian rules and regulations in regards to training and what we can do and what we can't do. And it's all pretty straightforward, because at the end of the day, Scar here, he will sit there in that water, work out the routine of an animal coming down to take a drink, and it might take 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 weeks, even a month. He will work that routine out. Most mammals will come down to the same place, same time every day to take a drink. Scar here will sneak up on it and he will wait for that perfect shot. So our job is to come in here, make sure that he's all okay, mow the lawns, clean the pool occasionally when he lets us in here, and feed him. But because of that routine of catching food, the familiarity is us as keepers, he actually gets used to you personally. He doesn't recognise you by sight, he recognises you by the sound of your voice, your footsteps, and even by the smell of your cologne. Now underwater he can actually feel our footsteps from where he is there. And when it's really quiet, he can even feel the footsteps up on that deck where you guys are standing. Now he really is just waiting for somebody to go horribly wrong, because he really thinks that we can't see him. Crocodiles like Scar here, in the wild in Australia, they're a tropical species. Now he's just playing a game with Amy. It's called Come Closer. In the wild, saltwater crocodiles don't like fast-flowing water. Can she get it out?
Oh, yeah.
So, during the summer, nice and warm, I reckon he might be aiming to get Amy. What do you reckon? So during the summer, they're in a feeding mode.
Yeah.
Try and catch an animal to eat it. As a tropical species in the top end of Australia, instead of having a cold winter, they have monsoon rain.
Yeah, he's watching.
So when that rain falls, especially right at the beginning of the season, it's usually thunder and lightning and electrical storms that start it off, and that's what is a bit of a trigger. They can feel that electrical overhead activity and actually stop looking for food and start looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So when the rains come down and the water levels start to, as everything floods, these guys don't like fast flowing water, so they head inland. Then the grass grows, they build a big grass mound.
Oh, yikes!
Oh, hell's that, eh?
Oh.
If you put a cat out, it'd be like me standing on a marshmallow biscuit.
I got that done.
It's about 3,000 to 3,500 pounds per square inch.
I did. Hang on, I'll wait and see if I can get another one. Not
Anyway,
quite open, but he had his door.
So with that big grass mound nest, the female will build that, lay the eggs inside that, she'll sit on it or beside it and she'll defend it from any other predator. And the big boys like Scar here, because they're not as light and agile on land, they'll sit in the water and hide and protect the female and the territorial area. Eggs hatch, the males usually get forced out because the females don't like anything else around them that's going to eat the young. Then Scar might end up in a little pool of water, not much bigger than his own body. So you can imagine every animal's got to come down to his drinking hole to take a drink. So for him it's just like McDonald's. He's got a full menu to choose from, he doesn't have to pay when he leaves. But he might be in that same body of water for 2 or 3 years before there's enough rain for him to swim out. So they're really designed to survive. Scar can sit down there up to 3 hours on one breath of air, drop his heart rate down to between 1 and 2 beats a minute, and believe it or not, he can actually cut the blood circulation off to the rest of the body and circulate from the heart to the head. Now at 3 metres, a saltwater crocodile has got a brain that comes down to that first notch on your finger. When they get to 4 metres, doubles. Now it's the size of the walnut. And Scar there, he can actually catch the smartest animal on earth, which happens to be not Amy, but another human being. Now you'll see him raising his tail. That's an indication to us that he's prepared to come out. But if you have a look right on the front of Scar's mouth there, he's got one big tooth that sticks out the front. Now that big tooth that sticks out the front of his mouth there, it's got a little bit of a story to him. Originally put out of Darwin Harbour in 1982, so he hatched in the wild, he grew up in the wild, he is a little bit streetwise, and he was put into a crocodile farm. Now any saltwater crocodile in Australia that's potentially a danger or a threat to human life or to livestock is wrangled, taken out of the wild and relocated in crocodile farms. Because they're territorial, if you were to take Scar out of his pool, drive him down the road 10-15 kilometres and re-release him, he will find his way back to his home water. So very much territorial animals. So he was put on a crocodile farm and he was there 27.5 years as a breeding animal. And you can imagine he was in an enclosure a little bit smaller than this, and his pool was only about 90% the length of his own body. And one night he decided he didn't like his neighbour, so all the staff had gone home or down to the pub for a drink. Here we go, this is big.
Oh, that would have hurt. It was like,
You can actually reach right up to that wire in front of you. There we go, just that.
They can reach up. Yeah, that's why the wire's there.
So when he was at that crocodile farm, he picked a fight with a big croc in the enclosure next to his. At that time they were both just on 4 metres in length, and Scar actually killed that animal and he went back to his own pool by the next morning. But to get through from his enclosure to the next door neighbour's property, he had to go through a corrugated iron fence, and he actually cut a little bit of bone out of that top jaw, so that's why he's got a little recess and one tooth that sticks out. But because he's killed another crocodile the same size as himself, he's known as an alpha male. He's top of the food chain. He knows
Liam, can you step back?
he's killed something bigger and dangerous than himself.
Thank you.
So he knows that we are pretty much just easy game to hunt. On average, a saltwater crocodile like Scar here will eat 200 kg of food a year. That's about 3 sheep or large fishermen. That's all he will need. So the biggest thing that we've got to worry about is actually not to overfeed him. He breathes by shifting his internal organs from in the belly up into the chest cavity. Allows him to expand and compress the lungs so he can sink below the surface of the water. But he's also got a very, very low oxygen to blood level, so he's not designed for a huge amount of physical activity. Alrighty, who wants to hear a story? Okay, thumbs up for a gory story and thumbs down for a feel-good story. I see a lot of kids with thumbs up. Your parents need to put a couple of horror movies in front of them one night. Now, this story, here we go, how's that?
Look at that.
Who says you can't get an Australia to roll over? Alright guys, in Australia, because crocodiles like Scar here are fully protected by law, when they use them for a public show, they're going to be used as an educational tool. Pull her in, Scar. A bit harder. There we go, might get another death roll out of him. As a public show, they're going to be used as an educational tool to really demonstrate just how capable and how dangerous they are in the wild.
Roll over.
There we go.
Huh.
Amy looks like she's just about had enough.
You stink.
But anyway, this particular show in Australia, the keeper came in, and as I said earlier, they work on routine to catch food. It's that familiarity and routine that you use for the show to make them perform, because they don't think everything's a trap. So as the keeper came in, he held up that piece of meat, not much bigger than that piece that Amy had. The crocodile saw that as a cue, he slipped into the water, and we use the same design here as what they have in Australia. And as the keeper did the big talk, how dangerous they are, what they can do, how big they grow, he got to the top of the ramp and stood there with that little piece of fish. And that crocodile came up, opened his mouth, keeper dropped the food, and unfortunately he was a bit of a poor shot. It hit the side of the mouth and fell out. Now as you saw when Scar came up, eyes on top of the head, when he's got his mouth open he can't see forward. So that crocodile kept coming until the first thing he touched happened to be the keeper's hand. Bang, 3,000 pounds of bite pressure, a couple of those big teeth went down through the wrist and he held on. And as that crocodile slipped into the water, he felt the resistance, he stood up on his front feet, he shook his head and he pulled the keeper's arm off at the shoulder, just like pulling apart a roast chicken on Christmas Day. So really the story is, you don't really want to use your arm to feed a crocodile, use a piece of bamboo like we've got. But because the crocodile keeper lost his arm, he decided he needed to retire so he can still do his shoelaces up in the morning to go to work. And they also retired that crocodile and he was sent up to Indonesia. And unfortunately he was put on display up there in a couple of different shops as a couple of shoes and handbags. So a little bit of a lose-lose situation. Oh, it looks like he's sitting there watching that little girl in the pink dress. Yeah, you. It's alright, he likes pink. Okay guys, at 2:30 in the butterfly house, we're looking out two little baby salties. They're just over 1.5 years old. So if you're lined up just outside the new deck area, we'll call you in small groups and you'll be able to take photos and have a pet of the baby crocs. But please don't try and pet them over the head or under the chin. They don't have as big a teeth like these guys do. But they still will try and grab your finger and play with your hands. So they'll be at 2:30 in the butterfly house, guys. Until then, remember kids, we've still got a couple more days before you have to go back to school, so be good. Thank you guys.
Toss and tile. That's what that girl.